A Chinese automaker. Most Americans have never heard of, just outsold Tesla, not in a single city, not in a single market, but globally. And their most affordable car costs $10,000. That is less than most people spend on a used Honda Civic with 150,000 miles on the odometer. But here is the detail that genuinely reframes everything. That $10,000 car now comes standard with the same self-driving assistance technology that Tesla, BMW, and Mercedes charge anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 extra to unlock. BYD did not charge extra. They made it standard equipment on every single vehicle they sell, every model, every trim level, every price point. And they did it with a single announcement in January 2025. A company that most Americans still cannot confidently pronounce is quietly dismantling every assumption the car industry believed was permanent. How they got here, what they built, and what it means for the vehicle you buy next is worth understanding in full. Most people hear BYD and think car company. That is actually the wrong frame. And understanding why changes everything about how you interpret what they have built. BYD was founded in 1995, not in a car factory, but in a small battery plant in Shenzhen. The founder, Wang Chuanfu, was a chemist with roughly $300,000 in startup capital and a precise objective: manufacture rechargeable batteries at a lower cost than anyone else on the planet. He reverse-engineered Japanese battery technology and rebuilt it at a fraction of the original cost. It was not glamorous work, it was methodical, detail-obsessed manufacturing. And that mindset would define everything BYD became. By 2000, BYD was the largest manufacturer of nickel-cadmium batteries in the world. 2 years later, they were the top lithium-ion battery supplier on the planet. Not top 5, number 1. In under a decade, a small factory in Shenzhen had become the backbone of the global rechargeable battery industry. The car business came in 2003 when BYD quietly acquired a struggling Chinese automaker. No fanfare, no major press conference, just a company learning a new industry from the inside while continuing to build. Then in 2008, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway invested $232 million in BYD. Most analysts found it puzzling at the time. By 2021, that stake was worth over $8 billion. Buffett was not lucky. He identified something most analysts were not paying attention to: a company that did not just assemble vehicles, but manufactured nearly everything that went inside them. That single fact is the structural foundation of everything BYD has done since. And when Ford needs a computer chip for a new truck, they call a factory in Taiwan and wait, sometimes 6 months or longer. During the pandemic, when global supply chains fractured, Ford and GM shut down assembly lines entirely. Not because they ran out of steel or rubber, but because they could not source a chip the size of a fingernail from a facility on the other side of the world when BYD needed chips during that same period. They called their own semiconductor division. Problem resolved in hours instead of months. BYD manufactures its own batteries, motors, chips, steel, glass, and even the foam inside the seats. From raw material to finished vehicle, the vast majority of the supply chain is internal, and that degree of vertical integration is extraordinarily rare and extraordinarily difficult to replicate. Building it properly takes at least a decade. Once established, competitors need another decade just to begin catching up. Most American automakers are still drafting plans for factories that will not open for years. The single most consequential technology BYD built internally is something called the Blade battery, developed in secret and launched publicly in 2020. It is range anxiety, the discomfort of sitting at a highway charger for 30 to 45 minutes while other cars cycle through. 5 minutes does not reduce that barrier. It effectively eliminates it. You stop, plug in, get a drink, return to your car, and drive away with 250 additional miles. BYD demonstrated the system working. It runs at 1,000 volts and 1,000 amps. Figures the current American charging infrastructure is nowhere close to supporting. The entire United States has roughly 6,500 Tesla supercharger stalls nationwide. BYD plans to have 4,000 of their own ultra-fast charging stations across China alone by the end of 2025. The flagship vehicle running on this platform does 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds minus supercar acceleration in a sedan built on the same technology stack as their most affordable models. BYD is not currently selling passenger cars in the United States, but they are operating in more than 70 countries. And the pattern of how they move through markets reveals something important about how they think. In 2024, BYD sold 120,000 vehicles in Europe, modest in absolute terms, but growing fast enough that Volkswagen announced factory closures in Germany in 2024 for the first time in the company's entire history. The European Union responded with tariffs of up to 35% on Chinese EVs. BYD's answer was to begin constructing a factory in Hungary, manufacturing locally, and sidestepping the tariff entirely in Australia. A BYD model became one of the fastest-selling EVs the country had ever recorded. Across Thailand, Indonesia, and Vietnam, BYD is the dominant EV brand. In Brazil, they are building a factory on the site of a former Ford plant. And in Mexico, the BYD Shark, a plug-in hybrid pickup, became the best-selling pickup truck in the country. Not the best-selling EV, the best-selling pickup in a market where truck culture runs deep. That Mexico presence raises a specific question in Detroit. If BYD manufactures vehicles in Mexico, those cars could potentially qualify under North American trade rules and enter the U.S. market without the full weight of the 100% Chinese EV tariff that the Biden administration imposed in 2024 and the Trump administration expanded through 2025. The wall is real, but factories can be built on the right side of a border. Here is the detail that surprises most people. BYD is not simply a competitor to American car brands. In several cases, they are already embedded within them. BYD has a joint venture with Toyota producing EVs in China. They supply batteries to Ford, they work with Stellantis on EV platforms, and the company American consumers are currently blocked from buying cars from is already part of the supply chain of vehicles of those same consumers are driving today. Even for buyers who will never own a BYD, the competition is already producing tangible financial benefits. Tesla cut prices multiple times between 2023 and 2025, not out of generosity, but competitive pressure. The Model 3 that cost $46,000 in 2022 costs significantly less today. Ford dropped the Mustang Mach-E price by $8,000 in 2023. GM launched the Equinox EV at $35,000 specifically to hit a price point that international competition made impossible to ignore. Every one of those reductions moved faster because BYD proved the unit economics worked at lower price points and forced Western automakers to respond or concede buyers. The $25,000 mass market EV that felt like a distant aspiration in 2022 is a realistic near-term product in 2026, partly because BYD demonstrated the math and forced the entire industry to close the gap. For anyone who follows engineering purely for its own sake, BYD's performance brand Yangwang is worth knowing about. Their U9 supercar produces 1,100 horsepower across 4 motors, 1 per wheel, with control precise enough that the car can lift all 4 wheels simultaneously on command. Their U8 luxury SUV can rotate a full 360 degrees in place, drive on 3 wheels with 1 axle disabled, and float on water for short distances. These capabilities have been demonstrated live on video, not in renders. That level of ambition does not emerge from a compliance mindset. It comes from a company that controls its entire technology stack and is genuinely exploring what becomes possible when a decade of compounding battery expertise gets pointed at a single product. The bigger picture here is not really about which brand wins. It is about what happens to an entire industry when serious competition finally arrives at the technology frontier. American automakers built their identity around the internal combustion engine. That identity is real and culturally embedded, but the manufacturing infrastructure underneath it, the factory floors, the supplier networks, the 4 decades of engineering focused on perfecting combustion, was built for a built-specific powertrain. Rebuilding all of that for batteries is genuinely difficult, genuinely expensive, and genuinely slow. GM spent $35 billion on EV development through 2025 and still cannot approach BYD's cost structure. Ford bled $5 billion from its EV division in a single year. Expertise compounds over time, and it also erodes. BYD did not need to pivot. Batteries have been their entire world since 1995. The EV era is not an adaptation they are scrambling to make. It is the environment they were designed for. That structural advantage is measured in decades, and it does not disappear because a competitor starts spending. Wang Chuanfu said in 2024 that BYD's goal is not to be the largest car company in China, it is to be the largest car company in the world. 5 years ago, that sounded like ambition. And today it reads more like a timeline they are already running ahead of.